With the 2019 Senior Bowl now officially in the books and the Combine coming up, who helped themselves going into the 2019 NFL Draft? Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and we want to talk about the Senior Bowl 2019, which players propelled themselves forward as we get closer and closer to the 2019 NFL Draft. Before we do that, however, if you haven't already subscribe to Believers Talk. Again, my name is Joe. If you are a fan of Buffalo sports, whether it be the Bills, whether it be the Sabres, or whether it be the Buffalo Bulls, we'll talk about some of those players in the Senior Bowl as well. Hit that subscribe button. We'll keep you covered on all Buffalo sports news. So again, hit that subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment. Always enjoy getting back to my commenters, so I'll be sure to get back to you as well. But again, thank you for joining my Believers Talk. We will be talking about the Senior Bowl. What effect did some of how these players did, how did they do, and how does that affect the Buffalo Bills moving forward? Now, obviously, there are some other players who made strides during the Senior Bowl. Won't cover them just because we're going to look at the players' positions of need for the Buffalo Bills. That's what we're going to do here on Believers Talk. So, if you're a fan of the Buffalo Bills, again, hit that subscribe button, watch this video, leave a comment. Tell me if you watched the Senior Bowl or if you heard something from the Senior Bowl and you say, hey, I like this guy too, look a little bit more into him. Happily do that for you. But let's get started. The biggest position jump to me in this Senior Bowl was that wide receiver position. And we're not just talking about the Senior Bowl game, we're talking about the whole week. You know, the whole week we talked about, or we heard about a lot of these wide receivers playing well, in the Senior Bowl, and that starts with Deebo Samuel. Now, Deebo Samuel actually only had one catch in the Senior Bowl, and that was on the first play of the game. But if you watch him play, he was open on a lot of routes. The quarterback play in the Senior Bowl was not that great, but he was open. Sometimes he was overthrown, open on out routes where they just threw it to another target or underthrew him. So you cannot blame Deebo Samuel for that. And plus, everyone talked about how great he looked this week during the Senior Bowl practices and everything like that. Probably the best all-around wide receiver performance throughout the whole week. So he did nothing but help his stock. Then you go down to Keelan Doss. Guys, I didn't even hear about Keelan Doss until this week. Also heard about him a couple days before the game, having a great week there at the Senior Bowl from UC Davis, and that probably is why I never heard of him. But another wide receiver on the rise that we need to maybe look out for in those later rounds of the draft. And then third, and finally, we talk about Andy Isabella, wide receiver from Massachusetts. He had a touchdown in this game, had a lot of catches in this game, looked really good. Not the tallest or most physical guy, but he was definitely fighting for some tough yardage in certain spots. And that touchdown he had was a simple wide receiver screen. He broke a couple tackles to get into that end zone, so it was good to see that from him. Now, obviously, in this game, we didn't hear from a lot of the top wide receivers. DK Metcalf obviously didn't play. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, he did not play in this game. And Keel Harry from Arizona State, he did not play. And then Kelvin Harmon from NC State. Some of the top guys that we know are going to go off the board early. And maybe some of the guys that the Bills are looking at wide receivers, that's where they're going to want to go early. But they didn't play in the Senior Bowl because really what do they have to gain, right? We already know there were some of the top wide receivers in the game, and we'll look into them closer to draft time. We'll look into the wide receiver position as a whole and see which wide receivers I like, which ones I don't like, and see where I want the Bills to go. Because again, I think the Bills actually do need a tall possession receiver right now. You know, someone who we thought Kelvin Benjamin was, they obviously wasn't. You know, we have a lot of these slot guys like Isabella. Again, not the tallest guy on the field, more of like a slot guy. We have a lot of those already. You talk about Zay Jones. You talk about Robert Foster. You know, we have those type of players. So, but we'll see how the Bills go. Obviously, you can have a Steve Smith on your hands, who is who was a number one wide receiver, but very short. And then you want that guy on your team. If he's going to be a good number one wide receiver, you want him. So we'll talk more about the wide receivers when we get closer to the draft. I'll break down the wide receiver position and which wide receivers I like, which ones I think are a little overhyped. So we'll talk about that later. But those three guys really, I think, propelled themselves during the Senior Bowl, maybe moving themselves up a lot of people's draft boards with their performance. Then we go down to the defensive tackle position, guys. Defensive tackle, with the loss of Kyle Williams, is really becoming a position of need for the Buffalo Bills. Again, we know how Coach McDermott and Leslie Frazier, we know how they like to rotate those guys in at defensive tackle. Well, we need someone not just Starla Toure and Harrison Phillips. We need someone to come in to give those guys some rests. Who is that going to be? And I was really impressed. If you watch the live stream, I'm really impressed with two guys in particular. And those two guys are guys I want to talk about in this game or in this video. You're talking about Colleen Saunders, defensive tackle, Western Illinois, and Greg Gaines, defensive tackle from Washington. They were disrupting the quarterback and disrupting the run game all day. You definitely kept hearing their names in this game, and it was great because, again, they just had presence from the beginning. And it went throughout the whole game. So I really will look deeper into these two guys. Again, we'll break down the defensive tackle position as well, as far as who I think we should take a look at and possibly get in the draft. Because remember, guys, it's not about just who's best. We all know that these guys aren't the best. But at the same time, who's going to be available when we pick? If we go offensive line first, then obviously some of the better defensive tackles and better wide receivers aren't going to be there. If we stick with the 9 spot, I said it's left. If we stick with the 9 spot, I don't think there's a wide receiver worth getting in the top 10, even DK Metcalf, who I think is probably the best receiver in this draft class. But if we go offensive line in the with our first pick, I don't think DK Metcalf's going to be available by the time we pick again. So who are we looking at that wide receiver? And that's what we'll look more into when we look into our draft coverage. There's one more guy I did want to make mention to who really impressed me during this Senior Bowl, and that's offensive tackle Dalton Risner, offensive tackle Kansas State. That's someone who I thought we should be keeping a look on. Even before the game started, and he's someone who impressed during the game. Also, Andre Dillard, offensive tackle from Washington State. He had a pretty decent game, but that's what we would expect from him. He is one of the better offensive tackles coming out this year, and that's someone I keep circling as far as someone the Bills need to take a look at. Currently, he's projected, I think, in like the 15 to 20 range, but I think that's definitely someone that we want to take a look at. So that's my perspective as far as the Buffalo Bills go. Going back to wide receiver position, I know a lot of us want to keep Anthony Johnson from the University of Buffalo in Buffalo. As far as the Senior Bowl, he didn't do too much to improve his situation. Only had one catch in the game. However, it didn't hurt him either. He didn't have like a terrible game or a terrible week. He just didn't do anything to rise above the other guys. So he'll still be drafted maybe a late second, early third. Maybe even dropping into day 3 of the draft. We'll see what happens. After the Combine, we'll have a lot to do about that. And we will give you coverage of the Combine here on Believers Talk. Day after day, we'll get on here and talk about who did well, who didn't perform so well for you, so you guys can keep up to date on the NFL Combine when that happens as well. Sticking with the University of Buffalo, guys, we know that the Buffalo Bills are not in the QB market, right? But Tyree Jackson, quarterback from the University of Buffalo, did play in this game. Actually had a pretty good game. He only helped his stock. His stock is rising if you talk to some of the experts in around the NFL. Had a great game, 2 touchdown passes. He did throw 1 interception while on the run. We had a safety cut a route. And he did a good job, and it was a good interception, something that Tyree Jackson needs to work on. But, the scouts had nothing but good things to say about his strong arm, which if you're a fan of University of Buffalo, you've watched him play this season, you know he has a strong arm. Now, it's not Josh Allen strong, but it's pretty strong nonetheless. And, he's able to find some targets. Now, obviously, he had Johnson to throw the ball to, and that obviously helped that connection. But we'll see where he goes. Again, only helping his stock. We'll see how he does in the Combine as well, and that will show us what he's going to do come draft day. Where is he going to go? I'm pretty positive he will not be drafted day 1, probably not even day 2. But when you look at day 3, you might see his name pop up there. And you never know. I mean, quarterbacks are definitely more sought after, the most sought after position in the league. So maybe someone does take a leap of faith on it. Maybe someone sees something they like. Remember, you only need one team. You only need one team to like you, and they'll get you. And so, we'll see what happens with him. But those were his stats from the game. Again, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 13 for 21, 165 yards. So not a bad day at all for Tyree Jackson. So that's it from the Senior Bowl. Again, we did have the Senior Bowl live here. We're doing live play-by-play and reaction on Believers Talk, and we'll continue to do live coverage of the Buffalo Bills. We were live for every single Buffalo Bills game, and we'll have that for you again next season, even into the playoffs, because we all know next season the Bills are going to be in the playoffs. Look forward to that. And we'll also keep you covered. We'll keep you covered on Buffalo Sabres. I do plan on going live for some of their games as well. So if you're a Sabres fan, want to have some live play-by-play reaction, some talk, communication back and forth with fellow Sabres fans, hit that subscribe button. We'll happily do that for you. And I'll be live in March for those Buffalo Bulls as we get ready for March Madness. It's going to be a great time, guys. Again, you want to hit that subscribe button. My name is Joe. I thank you for joining me on this video. Again, leave a comment. If there's a guy I didn't name who was at the Senior Bowl who you really liked, let me know about it, and we'll look at them. And again, we'll do a position-by-position breakdown close to a draft of guys I like and the guys that I think might be overhyped. You might see some of these names on both those lists. Some guys I like, some guys, DK Metcalf, maybe a little overhyped, maybe. I'm just letting you know. That's how I feel. So again, you want to hit that subscribe button. You want to like this video and leave a comment in the comment section. And I'll happily get back to you. I look forward to talk to y'all soon. I'll see you soon. But until I do, go Bills.